Good morning, everyone. Clock's just ticked around to 11 o'clock, so we'll make a start. Welcome to the latest in the Grow Your Knowledge series of webinars. My name's Andrew Geens, as you can see from the slide. Just in case any of you are getting a sense of deja vu, we did run this webinar in the CIBSE Certification webinar series last October. We were anticipating a UKAS decision on 14,001, so we ran the webinar. We were a bit premature, as it turned out, mainly because of problems around allocation resources for witnessed audits during quite deep lockdown. Things took a bit longer to organise, but the good news is we did get our accreditation in July this year, so we thought it would be a good idea to run the webinar again. So welcome to those of you who are seeing this for the first time, and welcome back for anyone who thought they'd have another look. The theme of the webinar is 14,001. As you'll see, that's not the only thing we do, and I thought I'd make the focus talking about transfer, because I know a lot of organisations already have 14,001. So I run the certification department, which is a subsidiary of CIBSE. As you can see from my title slide, I'm a member of CIBSE as well. I thought I'd mention that because it's relevant to some of the comments I make later on. I've just seen I've been muted. I hope that was a recent thing. Okay, let's move through the slides. And a bit of a technical hitch there, but I think we're through that. Okay, just a bit of signposting. We're going to talk today about CIBSE Certification as a certification body. I think a lot of people probably don't recognise that CIBSE operates a subsidiary company that is a certification body, so just a little bit on that. Also the significance of UKAS accreditation, the detail of the transfer route, and just a little bit on why CIBSE certification to conclude. So that's the four themes I'm planning to run through. So, operating as a certification body, we're a wholly owned subsidiary of CIBSE. I won't go into the details today, but it would be complicated for CIBSE as a professional body to operate as a certification body, so they have set up a subsidiary company to do that. That was done back in 2007. And at the time it allowed them to demonstrate independent assessment of competence for individuals to satisfy government requirements. So examples of this are EPC and DEC assessors. But the business also operates non-regulatory schemes such as the low carbon consultant registers and the heat networks consultant register. Sorry about the pauses, I'm still having mouse control problems. I'll get there. So the business has expanded over time. Since 2007, the government have introduced some new initiatives, the most recent being the ESOS lead assessor register. And I guess in tandem with that, with the 50,001 requirements, are low carbon consultant energy management systems register. All of these personnel schemes are operated in conformity with an international standard. That's what being a certification body involves. And the original registers are UKAS accredited as conforming with this standard. A bit more on UKAS in a minute. Few ISO numbers being bandied around. I should say that all of these slides will be available after the event as well as a recording, so don't worry too much about keeping track of it. You can refer to it later on if you need to. So 17021 is the standard for the certification of management systems, and we decided we would build on our existing relationship with UKAS and apply 17021 specifically to certify energy management systems. 17021 covers all management systems, but you need to specify underneath that umbrella which management systems you plan to certify. So we started with 50,001 because that supported the ESOS work. And we added 9,001 in 2018, and as I've already said, 14,001 earlier this year. We have applied for 45,001, which is the Occupational Health and Safety Management System standard. So we should get a decision on that next year, hopefully early next year. So the aim of adding these standards is to provide certification of integrated management systems where organisations operating more than one system have integrated them for efficiency. We learned early on that people rarely operate 50,001 in isolation, and they would normally have other standards in use and operating them in an integrated way. It makes sense to certify them in an integrated way as well. So that's the umbrella idea that I was communicating in the earlier slides, sometimes easier with a picture. So ISO 17021 is the umbrella standard for describing how you certify management systems. And then under that umbrella, you can certify individual management systems, quality, reading across the page, environment, occupational health and safety, and energy. So green, the ones we're already accredited, 45,001 in progress. So as 14,001 is our most recent edition, that's the focus today. I expect a lot of you already have the standard, but I won't assume that. So just a little bit of background. Of course, this is very topical at the moment, and I'm sure a lot of your clients would like the reassurance that companies they're working with have systems in place to manage their environmental impact. So that's a nice little quote taken from the introduction to the standard, but you can trace it back to the Brundtland report that was issued in 1987. So since 1987, there's been a growing groundswell of interest in things environmental and in companies demonstrating to their customers that they share this concern about, whilst in pursuit of economic development, not doing it at the expense of the environment and society. So ISO 14001, in common with all the international standards, is setting out a management system that's broadly aligned with the aim of the standard, and it's done by an international team of experts. So to paraphrase BSI, international standards represent what good looks like. You know, they're written by a team of experienced practitioners. So what is the standard? Well, at a basic level, it's a book or a booklet that looks like that. And it contains all the requirements of the standard with guidance for using the standard. So at the basic level, if you want to impress your customers, you can get yourselves a copy of this standard, read it, and apply what's in the standard. So you can do that. You can operate the management system as an organisation and communicate it to your customers or other interested parties simply by making an evaluation and self-declaration. Check it yourselves that you're doing what it says in the standard and telling your customers that's what you do. hopefully it's fairly self-evident that a lot of customers might want a bit more reassurance than just you saying that you've read it and you're doing what it says. So moving into a bit of detail on what UKAS accreditation means. So you can make the self-declaration, or you can ask somebody else to have a look at it. You can ask your customers to inspect what you're doing, to reassure them you're doing it as it says in the standard. Or you can seek some third-party verification. You could seek certification of your management system by an external organisation, a certification body such as us. Now that third-party organisation could be UKAS accredited, or it might not be. There are certification bodies who just trade on their own reputation and don't go for the UKAS extra layer of confidence. But for the highest level of confidence, UKAS accreditation is often required by suppliers, almost always by government agencies. So they're looking for that added layer of confidence that UKAS gives you. So we're the third party coming in to have a look at how you operate the system and certifying that you're doing it properly. For an added layer of confidence, there is a national accreditation body, which is UKAS, who keep an eye on us. So it's a bit of a cascade system. When UKAS accredit us, they're basically saying they trust us to certify on their behalf. This accreditation reduces risk for business and its customers by assuring them that accredited certification bodies are competent to carry out the work they undertake. So it's good belt and braces in terms of confidence throughout the system. So the government do talk this up. They approve the national accreditation body, UKAS, and they say things like this: the only authoritative statement of competence has public authority status, providing the last level of control in the conformity assessment chain is from the UK's national accreditation body, UKAS. So we anticipate customers looking for that level of confidence, which is why we've been going through the process of adding UKAS accreditation for the standards that we certify. As I mentioned, there are quite a few non-accredited certification bodies about, and I can't be too negative about being non-accredited, because at the moment we're non-accredited for occupational health and safety. So we're issuing non-accredited certificates for customers. It's a bit chicken and egg. You have to get to the point where you're issuing certificates before UKAS will consider checking how you're doing it in order to accredit you. They don't do it theoretically, they do it in practice. You have to be doing it. So non-accredited certification has to exist before you can become accredited. But some certification bodies don't seek the accreditation and just permanently offer non-accredited certification. On first inspection, it doesn't appear much different. In fact, if you're aiming for accreditation, the only difference is you haven't been accredited yet. So you don't have that UKAS oversight confidence. In practice, without that third-party UKAS checking, you get a situation where a lot of non-accredited certification bodies help their customers to implement systems. So effectively, they're acting as consultants. They're providing all the documentation and helping clients develop their system, and then issue a certificate saying the system we've just given you complies with the standard. So, this is fine. It helps the organisation to implement the system, much the same way as employing a consultant. But the difference is the consultant would not then certify their own work normally. The phrase that's often used is, you end up with someone marking their own homework, which, as we all know, is probably not a good idea. So that's the risk of working with a non-accredited certification body. There is this diminished confidence in the certification system. The certificates issued are effectively self-certified by the certification body, having helped install it. How would you know the certification body you're working with is non-accredited? I do speak to people who say, "Oh, I had no idea our certificates were non-accredited." So how would you know? It's not that obvious, maybe. Well, the first thing to do is you could check on the UKAS website. If you go to the UKAS website and search CIBSE Certification, you'll find not only the fact that we're accredited by UKAS, but also the detail of what we're accredited to do. So you would currently find our listings for 59 and 14,001. So if you're dealing with a certification body and you're not sure and you'd like to know, that's the easy way of checking. There are some other telltale signs. The certificates we issue, we're authorised to include the UKAS logo. So our certificates have the dual badging of the CIBSE Certification logo, as well as the UKAS logo. The UKAS logo has a distinctive tick, and I think one of the reasons a lot of people think their certification body is UKAS accredited is that several non-accredited bodies have a logo that includes a tick. I think the kindest way of explaining that is it's quite savvy marketing to have your logo looking a bit like the UKAS logo to give the impression that you might be UKAS accredited. Of course, that might be entirely coincidental. It might just be they think a tick looks nice on the logo. The other telltale is when you're applying to a certification body for certification, they need to work out the audit time required, which is prescribed primarily on the number of employees. ISO 50001 is the exception to that, the energy management standard, where logically the questions are more about the amount and type of energy that you use. But for the other standards, it's driven primarily by the number of employees. So if you're being asked about number of employees, you're probably dealing with a UKAS accredited body. If they're asking you about your turnover, they're probably not, because you don't need to know that to work out the audit time. So transfer routes. I said at the beginning I'd like to talk about the transfer route. I would like to think in a year or two's time I'll prefer not to talk about the transfer route, because what I'm about to do is tell you how very straightforward it is to transfer from one UKAS accredited certification body to another. Now, we are very much new players in this market, so from time to time companies do change their certification body, and it is quite straightforward to do it. In telling everyone about it at the moment, my hope and expectation is there would be a net migration in our direction. When we're a bit more established in the market, maybe I'll keep quiet about how easy it is to transfer, because we may have people transferring in the other direction in similar numbers. Although I'd obviously hope that people with us would be happy and wouldn't want to transfer. So let's talk about the detail. This transfer mechanism is only available to holders of a UKAS accredited certificate or any other national accreditation body, actually. So if you have a certificate accredited by the German national accreditation body or the Irish or American, they're all part of this IAF, International Accreditation Forum, and they are mutually recognised. So if you're part of the that mutually recognised organisation, the transfer is available. So this is basically recognising an existing and valid certificate granted by one certification body by another for the purpose of issuing its own certification. Because we all have this national accreditation body oversight, it is safe, it's low risk to accept that if you've been certified by someone else, we would have certified you as well. So it's safe for us to issue you with a certificate. If the certificate you have isn't accredited, then you can still apply to us, but it wouldn't be a transfer, you'd just be applying as a new client, which is a bit more involved. So this transfer process acknowledges the confidence that is achieved through UKAS accredited certification. Confidence levels are high enough that we can, in effect, accept someone else's certificate and reissue with our badging, which makes it a very low risk process for you as an organisation. The guidance on transfer is published by the IAF. They produce a mandatory document, MD2. So we follow the guidance in that to develop our transfer process. It gets a bit wordy now. I'll try and sort of summarise this fairly quickly. So what we would need to do is have a look at your documentation. We need to see your certificate. We need to look at a recent audit report to make sure there were no outstanding non-conformities, basically to make sure you're not swapping certification body to avoid problems that have been found by your current body. So if there were some problems identified, that wouldn't preclude a transfer, but it would probably involve a visit to come and have a look and sort of make a judgment on whether you were suitable for transfer. This is a visit and not an audit, and importantly, this is all at no cost to you, the customer. So it's a desktop review with a possibility of a visit if that's considered necessary. I said it was getting wordy. This sort of thing you might like to have a look back over, have a look at the slides some point later, but it's just a bit more detail, sort of things we're checking, reasons you're seeking a transfer, that the site's currently applying for transfer, hold a valid certificate, and so on. So if we're satisfied with all of this, we would simply issue you with a certificate with our badging. The dates would be consistent with the certificate you already have, and we would simply pick up the reins where the other certification body have left off. So if you have just had a surveillance audit and you're due your next surveillance audit in 11 months' time, the next time you'd hear from us would be for that surveillance audit in 11 months' time. And that's the first time there would be any cost. You'd be paying us for the surveillance audit instead of your previous certification body. So it's a seamless transition. You would have our certificate in your hand before you needed to notify your previous certification body that you no longer required their certificate. So there's no being adrift in the middle. You don't need to stop your current certificate and gamble on getting our certificate. You don't need to finalise that until you've had our certificate issued. So can skip those because I've talked about it, I think. So just a bit of detail there. When we issue your certificate, if it's part of your promotion of your certification, you've had the certificate for 10 years. When we issue our certificate, we will put that original certification date on the certificate so that you can still support that claim. It will just have a little note in brackets that it was issued on that date by somebody else. It would have the current validity of the certificate that we've issued. So if you had to treat you as a new client, you would go through a stage 1 and stage 2 audit, the same as anybody else applying, and your certification would start from our decision. But that would be fairly unusual in a transfer situation. So that was a quick run through why you might have 14001, why you might prefer to have UKAS accredited certification, and how easy it is to switch certification bodies if you have UKAS accredited certificates. So on my signposting, I said I'd also address why you might consider CIBSE certification. I hope the fact that you've tuned in for the webinar today suggests that I might be pushing an open door slightly. So as I said earlier, the initial reason for getting the 9000 and 14001 was to offer integrated management certification for customers who came to us in the first instance for 50001 certification. But we have realised there's certain serendipity here. I've become aware of a sentiment expressed in the building services engineering community along the following lines. 9000 and 14001 audits sometimes a problem, as auditors often don't understand the building services engineering industry. I said in my introduction, I'm a member of CIBSE, so I hope I'm not saying something that's unfamiliar. It's not just 9001, 14001. I think building services engineers, as a profession, we often lament we're not understood. You start telling someone what you do for a living and they say, oh, isn't that what the architect does? It's annoying, isn't it? You have a 9001 certificate from a UKAS accredited certification body, but you wish they knew your industry better. If only there was a UKAS accredited certification body operating in the building services engineering sector. Well, there is now. I say we are new boys on the block, new kids on the block. Compared to some of the big players, we're relatively new to this. So we've been doing 50001 since 2015, but we only added 14001 this year. So I think very often, as part of the CIBSE group, people don't realise we're actually a certification body. They think we're offering training or some of the other things that CIBSE normally offer. But hopefully, having run through this webinar, you're all very clear that CIBSE Certification, as the name suggests, is a certification body, and you can download an application form for any of the standards we've been talking about at the link on screen at the moment. So just to summarise the transfer situation, there are no upfront costs. There are no additional audits. These bullet points are developed from questions people have asked in the past when I've talked to them about transferring. So no additional audits. On acceptance of our quotation, we simply issue you a new certificate. So once we're happy with your paperwork and that your transfer is acceptable, we will send you a quotation. If that's acceptable to you, we issue a new certificate. The first audit will be whenever your next audit would have been due on your old certificate. So we exactly take over the existing audit cycle. Importantly, it's probably worth mentioning in summing up, you can do this at any time in the certification cycle. I've also spoken to people who say, oh, it's our recertification year this year. We'll just get that out of the way and then we'll think about transferring. even if you had your last surveillance audit last week or your recertification audit last week, if you'd like to work with a different certification body, you can transfer at any point. So just a reminder again, download an application form from our website. Or you can contact me, Andrew Gaines. The email we're using for management system work is CCMS, that's CIBSE Certification Management Systems, at cibse.org. So as I've been talking, I think we've had some questions coming in. Or if you've been waiting for me to stop talking before you type your question, now's the time to do that. I'll start to have a look. Yes, I can see some of you have been okay, it looks like the questions were mainly about the someone having a sound problem, but they changed their headphones and that was sorted out, so that's good to know. I'm just going to pause for a moment because we've got 98 people online at the moment and none of you have asked a question, so I'm going to assume that you're all typing furiously and a question's going to pop up now that I've finished talking. That's still not happening. So while that's happening, I'll remind everyone that the slides and the recording of this will be both on the CIBSE.org website, if that's where you normally go for information, or if you're a CIBSE certification customer already and are familiar with our website, it'll be on the news page, which is where we list all our webinars, the recordings and the slides, so you can have a look at it at your convenience. Right, now I was just about to ask you all a question, but I've got a question coming in. I was going to ask you to let me know through the question option, just to let me know if the reason we're not getting many questions is that I've answered all your questions. Somebody's asking how accreditation of low carbon consultants compared to certification of 14,001. They're not really comparable things. One is certifying the competence of an individual, the low carbon consultants. The other is certifying a documented management system of a company. So they're quite different things at the delivery end. Conceptually, though, they're similar in terms of the confidence I was talking about. In both cases, we're certifying either that an individual is competent, or we're certifying that a company's management system is compliant with the standard, with the added layer of confidence that UKAS are keeping an eye on us and making sure that we are making the appropriate checks and going through the appropriate decision-making processes to issue those certificates. Someone's asking whether certification in the Republic of Ireland is under consideration at all. Thanks for asking that question. It does prompt a slightly broader answer. The simple answer is yes. We currently have certificates for all 4 of the standards that I showed in my diagram earlier, so 3 accredited, 1 non-accredited. We've got certificates issued for all 4 of those to companies' sites in the Republic of Ireland. I perhaps hinted at this earlier on when I said that if you're looking to transfer, your current certificate needs to be either UKAS backed or backed by any other national accreditation body. That works for us as well. UKAS accreditation is recognised internationally in the same way the national accreditation bodies of other countries are recognised in the UK. So I have handled a couple of transfers from certificates that were issued by non-UKAS bodies, but by UKAS's equivalent in other countries. So we're able to certify anywhere in the world effectively. And we do this for companies. Normally it's where companies have operations in more than one country, and it makes good sense for a number of reasons, not least economically, to do all of your certification with the same certification body, because once you get into multiple sites, you get into the realms of being able to sample and not visit every site every year. So, currently where we've got certificates issued in the Republic of Ireland for the same company, we've got certificates issued in Finland, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, and from next month, if all goes well, Sweden. So yes, this is certification that is applied internationally. It's accepted internationally, and as a certification body, we are geared up to deliver certification internationally. So thanks again for that question. Right, okay. So we don't have any other questions coming in, so I will take from that it must have been a very good webinar covering everything comprehensively, so that you didn't need to ask questions, or maybe you're all busy emailing me at ccms@simply.org with your questions. Either way, I'd like to thank you all for attending today, taking part, and just finally remind you, you will be able to pick this all up on both the CIBSE.org website and also the CIBSEcertification.co.uk website, whichever one you've got saved and you normally go to. So I'll sign off there and look forward to speaking to you all at a future webinar.